For a while, my social media feed was flooded with short videos featuring a very specific kind of background music, a mix of mandopop and what sounded like pseudo-Chinese opera. Honestly, it left me confused. Take a listen to this track, Silken Strands of Fate, 牵丝系. It's a massive hit in the Gufeng genre, literally translating to ancient style. Here's the chorus clip, sung by the original artist Yin Lin. Now compare that to this cover version by a professional Peking opera artist. Even if you don't know much about Chinese opera, you can probably tell the difference. The original singer lacks professional training. And that brings us to the stereotype of Gufeng music. Rough parodies of operatic singing, reimagined Hanfu costumes, opaque ancient-like lyrics, and the variation of Jay Chou's Chinese Wind, 中国风, on short video platforms. These tracks are often overused. You see clips of people mimicking ancient gestures in cheap, cosplay-quality costumes, acting unnaturally sentimental. And my initial impression on this genre? It's a fake, ancient Chinese style. But after digging deeper, I found more about this mandopop music style. It started as a vibrant online subculture among Chinese young generation. More importantly, it has gradually gained legitimacy within the mainstream. Transmedia storytelling is vital to Gufeng's growth, along with Hanfu activities and historical fantasy media like period dramas, anime, xianxia games, wuxia novels, and films. Gufeng music helps construct a reimagined collective vision of ancient China. So in this video, we're going to look past the stereotypes. First, I'll trace the origins of the Gufeng genre and address the controversies surrounding it. Second, we need to clear up the terminology. Gufeng, ancient style, Zhongguofeng, Chinese style, and Guofeng, national style, are often used interchangeably, but they are not exactly the same thing. I'll explain the differences and examine what exactly gives Gufeng its ancient vibe. Finally, we'll analyze the industry from the two directions. From the bottom up, how transmedia storytelling transformed Gufeng music from an online community hobby into a commercialized industry with offline events. And from the top down, how Gufeng gained official acceptance and became a recognized part of mainstream culture. To understand the genre, we first have to look at the word itself. Gufeng has actually been part of Chinese literature for thousands of years. Historically, it referred to ancient customs or a specific form of classical poetry from the Tang Dynasty. Today, however, while it broadly refers to any ancient style products, it specifically defines this dedicated community of fans and creators. The music's origins are humble and, frankly, a bit debatable regarding originality. It didn't start in professional studios, but in the early 21st century among fans of xianxia, which is fairy paladin game. It began as a form of self-entertainment. RPG players would write their own lyrics to existing game scores. These amateur musicians gathered on platforms like the bulletin board 5Sing, which is an original music uploading platform, and the now defunct Fenbei.com, to exchange these early works. The real turning point came in 2007 with the founding of 莫名其妙 MMQ Music, or Mo Village, as the Gufeng veterans call it. They were the original Gufeng music production club, operating under the slogan, gravitation toward ancient style. The name of the club reflects Gufeng's historical charm. Mo means ink, Ming is brightness, Qi is chess, and Miao means marvelous. By placing Mo first, they emphasize that lyric writing is the true heart of Gufeng creation. The group grew to over 100 members and played a crucial role in moving Gufeng from a niche hobby to an industrialized genre. By the 2010s, Gufeng had evolved significantly. The genre moved beyond the amateur fan works of the 2000s and began producing polished, original compositions. But you could so easily imagine these tracks can be used as soundtracks for any ancient-style Chinese fantasy drama or video games. Let's look at 4 key examples that define this era. First is 礼仪之邦, The Nation of Greatness and Courtesy by MMQ Music, which is released in 2012. This track is grand in scale, using a variety of traditional Chinese instruments to showcase thousands of years of Chinese civilization and etiquette. Second is 赤灵, Artist in Red, by Hita, released in 2018. The song highlights the genre storytelling and narrates a tragic, patriotic story of Pei Yanzhi, an opera actor who sacrifices himself during the war of resistance against Japanese aggression. Third, we have 12风华剑, 12 elegant masterpieces in the mirror of time by the club Xiyin which was released in 2017. The song acts almost like a cultural encyclopedia, cataloging 12 distinct Chinese cultural heritages. Finally, there is Qin Shi, Qin Player, by Audio Monster, known to the Gufeng fans as Lao Yao. The song was released in 2011. It was based on an allusion to a guqin player from the spring and autumn period of China. The guqin is a 7-string zither, recognized as a UNESCO cultural heritage. What's interesting about this music video is that the singer licensed a college animation club to create it. This collaborative effort between artists and student fans became a hallmark of the community. Because Guofeng originated from fans adapting songs within the Xianxia game fandom, the genre was born with inherent copyright risks. In the beginning, this was just non-commercial self-entertainment among amateurs. But as the genre moved from virtual communities into the real market, unauthorized fan works began clashing with original intellectual property. This friction isn't just external, it's internal too. In the Gufeng world, lyrics are often viewed as the souls of the music, the key to that ancient essence. So lyricists often hold a higher status than composers. And the problem is, early creators were just hobbyists who rarely signed contracts or profit-sharing agreements. A prominent example involves the song we heard at the beginning, Silken Strands of Fate. The lyricist, Vagrant, publicly criticized the singer and composer Yin Lin for commercializing the song without proper authorization, eventually demanding that the lyrics be separated from the composition entirely. Beyond legal battles, there is a crisis of quality. While lyricists often draw deeply from classical texts or compose original poetry, composers have struggled to find a distinct direction, often merely imitating wuxia, which is martial paladin film, soundtracks, Zhongguofeng, or other Mandopop or even J-pop repertoires. Since commercialization accelerated in 2015, Gufeng music has entered a standardized industrial phase. We now see a hit-making template combining mainstream Mandopop verses with an operatic chorus. This formula has led to a flood of repetitive tracks and the rise of the fake opera singing we discussed earlier, where singers without training simply strain their voices to mimic the style. It validates the critics who view the genre as a superficial imitation of antiquity, wearing cheap counterfeit Hanfu, singing unprofessionally, and showcasing a faux literary flair. Now we need to address the elephant in the room, the terminology. You often hear 3 terms used: Gufeng, ancient style, Zhongguofeng, Chinese style, and Guofeng, national style. Even among fans and professionals, these terms are argued over. But here's the simplest way to distinguish them. Gufeng emphasizes the ancient. It tries to give you a historical vibe. Zhongguofeng emphasizes the blend, mixing traditional Chinese elements with modern Western pop music. Guofeng is the umbrella, a newer concept that covers it all. Let's drill down into Zhongguofeng. This genre was systematically defined by pop superstar Jay Chou. It blends Chinese cultural elements and instruments with Western pop structures. Vincent Fang, the legendary lyricist behind Jay Chou's hits, clarified the difference at a recent cultural summit. He views Zhongguofeng not just as a genre, but as a broad creative concept, essentially pop music using Chinese imagery. In contrast, he sees Gufeng as a narrower, more specific concept. He thinks musically, Gufeng relies on the traditional pentatonic scale. Lyrically, it is richer in classical charm and feels more deeply rooted in the Chinese cultural soil. Finally, we have Guofeng, national style. According to the Tencent Music Data Research Institute, this is a modern ecosystem. While they acknowledge that Gufeng is a subculture born from Xianxia game fandoms, Guofeng can be a parent category. It encompasses everything: Gufeng, Zhongguofeng, folk music, traditional opera, and even Chinese classical poetry. So what exactly gives Gufeng its ancient soul? This isn't just about sounding old, it's about sounding refined and elegant. Throughout Chinese history, the concept of ancient has always been tied to elegance. Confucian scholars have revered the music of their predecessors as yayue, or elegant music. To them, anything ancient can be elegant. Anything elegant is ancient. We see this philosophy applied in specific ways in the Gufeng music. First is instrumentation. Gufeng music incorporates more traditional Chinese instruments. The centerpiece is often guqin, a 7-string zither with a documented history of over 3,000 years. Confucius himself was skilled at the instrument, and today it plays a vital role in establishing the genre's sound and motifs. Second is the structure and vocals. As we heard earlier, many Gufeng songs adopt operatic singing in the chorus. While this has led to stereotyping, it is a deliberate stylistic choice. Furthermore, many songs utilize recitative openings or interludes, which are spoken word sections that act as narrative bridges, similar to traditional Chinese opera performances. Third is the storytelling. Unlike Zhongguofeng, Gufeng tracks function as standalone narratives. Creators often write original ancient style stories or reference classical literature to provide context. The lyrics are different from Vincent Fang's lyrical style. They adopt the style of ancient Chinese poetry and prose. Gufeng stories typically explore specific themes: the reclusive life involving guqin, chess, calligraphy, painting, Chinese liquor and tea, the chivalrous tales of the Jianghu, loyalty and sacrifice on the battlefield, and fantasy and mythology. Finally, there is the visual identity. To complete the immersion, performers typically wear costumes resembling those from historical fantasy TV shows or movies, or reimagined Hanfu. This visual layer aligns with the lyrics to transport the audience to the life of ancient times. To truly understand how this genre functions, we need to look beyond the music itself and apply a concept introduced by media scholar Henry Jenkins: transmedia storytelling. In his Convergence Culture, Jenkins described a transmedia story as one that unfolds across multimedia platforms, where each new text makes a distinctive and valuable contribution to the whole. He used the Matrix franchise within its film, animated shorts, and comics as a prime example of how different media can expand a narrative universe rather than just copying one another. This framework perfectly explains the Gufeng phenomena. In an ideal transmedia model, storytellers develop a cooperative relationship with their audience, co-creating content with people who have different visions and experiences. This is the exact DNA of Gufeng music, which has involved collaborative authorship between artists and fans from the very beginning. Because the genre is so narrative-focused, the music is closely tied to visual and textual components. It consistently interacts with other ancient-style media, creating a feedback loop between songs, animations, novels, and games. Therefore, to say Gufeng is a music genre is actually less accurate than calling it a transmedia storytelling universe. Within this universe, the so-called ancient style isn't a strict historical restoration. It is a shared creative space that draws inspiration from antiquity to build something new. This transmedia concept in Gufeng music happens through deep collaboration. It actively engages with fellow subculture communities such as Hanfu clubs, xianxia games, and historical fantasy novels and animations. It connects with mainstream media, becoming the sonic backdrop for Chinese costume dramas, films, and TV shows. Together, these different forms of media co-create a massive transmedia story world, essentially a reimagined ancient China. This strategy has been the engine of Gufeng music development. Transmedia storytelling has not only enriched the content of this ancient-style universe, but it is also the primary force that propelled Gufeng from a niche subculture into the mainstream. So how is this story world actually built inside a 3-minute song? The answer lies in the unique creative process of Gufeng music. While many songs draw from existing novels or games, Gufeng artists frequently craft original fictional stories first, and then use them as the blueprint for the lyrics and melody. A classic example is the song we heard at the beginning, Silken Strands of Fate. The artists didn't just write a love song, they first wrote a Chinese fantasy tale about an old puppeteer and his lifelong bond with his puppet, inspired by traditional Chinese puppet shows. In this model, the text provides the framework for the listeners to understand the context, while the music serves to express the emotions within that specific story. The two are inseparable. This narrative focus even dictates the singing technique. If you listen to Zhongguofeng superstar Jay Chou, you'll notice he often softens and blurs his Mandarin pronunciation. He does this deliberately to make the Mandarin lyrics fit the fluid, rhythmic bounce of Western R&B or hip-hop. Gufeng singers do the exact opposite. They favor traditional Chinese folk and opera methods, resulting in a much clearer, more forward enunciation. The chorus sections specifically emulate the danju, the female role in Peking opera. By using techniques like vibrato, glissando, and long sustained notes, they reflect the aesthetic sensibilities of traditional Chinese music. In the Gufeng universe, producers and consumers collectively construct the story world. Fans play a critical role, not just by listening, but by producing their own music videos and even writing new lyrics. Example of this phenomenon is the 2008 masterpiece 倾尽天下, Devote the Whole World, produced by MMQ Music and performed by the Gufeng OG legend, He Tu. Just like Silken Strands of Fate, the track is built on a dedicated narrative. It tells a fictional historical love story involving the Zhou dynasty's emperor Bai Yan, the previous dynasty's emperor Jing, and the imperial concubine Zhu Sha. The song's impact was massive. It inspired over 80 fan-made music videos, mostly created by cosplay clubs. One version stands out, a cosplay video created by He Tong Qixue and Zitang Su. It received official authorization from He Tu. In this version, the cosplayer He Tong even covered the song. For many university students, this song was their introduction to Gufeng culture. Because of its deep narrative structure and the way it spread through fan creations, it remains a landmark work in the development of Gufeng genre. This tradition of participatory creation hasn't faded. In the early days, xianxia game companies organized lyric writing festivals to let fans help build the game story world. Today, that spirit continues on social media. For example, in early 2025, MMQ Music released a demo on their Red Note account and invited fans to submit lyrics, receiving over 70 entries. But here's the fascinating part. This modern habit of writing words before the lyric is actually a deep echo of ancient Chinese tradition. Because Chinese characters carry specific tones, traditional music frequently mirrors the tonal qualities of spoken dialects. Classical anthologies like the Shi Jing, the classic of poetry, and Chu Ci, Songs of Chu, were originally lyric books. History tells us that Confucius himself reorganized the Shi Jing and composed music for hundreds of its pieces. Hu Tingjiang, associate professor at the China Conservatory of Music, notes that one of the conventional processes for Chinese songmaking is indeed lyrics first, melody second. With the lyrics established, composers create melodies based on the word's tonal inflections. Furthermore, the texts provide the composers with concrete imagery, allowing them to interpret the content and artistic conception musically. In this sense, Gufeng isn't just mimicking the sound of the past. The creation process itself becomes a part of this reimagined ancient China. To understand the cultural soil where Gufeng grows, we must enter the 二次元 or nijigen. Initially, this term simply referred to the virtual worlds constructed in two-dimensional space. Over time, however, it expanded to encompass the entire fantasy culture surrounding flat visual media and the fandoms that inhabit them. The Chinese young population refers to this as ACGN. The term originated from ACG, anime, comics, and games, which first appeared in Taiwan during the 1990s as Japanese pop culture flooded school campuses. But as it spread to the mainland, the scope expanded to include and for novels, specifically the light fantasy literature that sits at the upstream of the industry chain. This gave rise to a stable ACGN cultural sphere where adaptations and creative exchanges flourish between readers, games, and viewers. As it evolved, the Chinese ACGN universe blended the Japanese framework with local aesthetics, specifically through wuxia and xianxia genres. Three legendary games define this era: 轩辕 Sword, Chinese Paladin, The Legend of Fairy and Sword, and 剑侠情缘. Adding high fantasy elements to traditional martial arts power systems, these games sets the narrative stage for Gufeng music. Unlike other music genres that organize into bands or labels, Gufeng groups call themselves clubs. This echoes the structure of university student societies. Indeed, college students have played a significant role in building these clubs, frequently collaborated with anime, cosplay, and Hanfu societies to produce integrated works. Initially, fans simply wrote lyrics over existing game scores, but as the genre matured and commercialized, Gufeng singers began receiving official authorization to create soundtracks for major ACGN works. Gufeng music is a bridge. While it started within this two-dimensional sphere, it draws from traditional literature, enriching the digital world with Chinese cultural heritage. In 2020, we witnessed a significant convergence of gaming and Gufeng music through the mobile game Honor of Kings. Developed by Tencent and released in 2015, this multiplayer battle arena has captivated over 139 million daily active users by merging Chinese historical figures and mythological heroes into dynamic gameplay. To celebrate the launch of its 100th hero, the game pulled off a fantasy collaboration that thrilled the entire subculture. They gathered 102 Gufeng singers, essentially half the top figures in the Gufeng industry, to produce a single theme song. 100 battles turned into poetry. The track itself is a sonic hybrid. It fuses traditional Chinese instruments like pipa, erhu, and di with operatic vocals, electronic beats, and rock elements. The reaction on Bilibili, the video platform known as B-Side, was explosive, garnering over 17 million plays. Bilibili is the spiritual home of Chinese ACGN culture. It is famous for 弹幕, bullet curtain, a content system where user messages scroll directly over the video in real time. For this video, the screen was covered by over 389,000 comments, creating a communal viewing experience unique to this two-dimensional world. This song became the most popular game soundtrack of 2020, and it went even further than that. The cultural impact of this track was so strong that even the military branches of China released their own adapted versions.
证明一瞬风华，守住独尊丧流和称霸，决取出巧计披靡厮杀，永生的代价，自古从无赢家。
Game, anime, and novel festivals now regularly feature Gufeng performances, turning individual listening habits into collective celebrations. A prime example is the 817 Daomi Festival, a massive annual gathering for fans of the tomb raiding novel series Time Raiders 盗墓笔记 by 南派三叔. The festival's name itself is a clever pun. 盗米 acts as a homophone for tomb fan 盗迷. Since August 17, 2015, these fans have gathered to honor the 10-year pact, a fictional promise made between the main characters Wu Xie and Zhang Qilin, in front of the Bronze Gate. The anthem for this event is the Gufeng track Time Raiders 10 Years in the Mortal World by Li Changchao. It serves as the emotional anchor for a franchise that spans web dramas, stage plays, games, and a film that grossed over 1 billion Chinese yuan. Historical and fantasy IPs have become the most competitive battlefield in Chinese entertainment because the aesthetics of Gufeng music align perfectly with the stories. The music has emerged as a rising star of the industry, becoming the choice for blockbuster soundtracks. This synergy enhances mutual promotional effects. On a broader level, this popularity has caught the attention of mainstream media. We're now seeing more Gufeng performances featured in traditional cultural TV shows and state-level concerts. The influence of ACGN culture also brought a technological revolution to the genre, the Vocaloid. Inspired by the success of Japanese virtual idols, Shanghai's V-Singer label introduced Chinese Vocaloid star in 2012, Luo Tianyi. Her name and costume were designed to specifically reflect Chinese poetic charm. While she started as a niche figure in the ACGN market, starting in 2016, she broke into the mainstream through cross-dimensional collaborations, performing alongside human pop stars and opera masters. Gufeng music is a prominent part of her repertoire, blending traditional Chinese aesthetics with modern electronic production, establishing her distinctive cyber-oriental music style. A perfect example of this style is her hit song 霜雪千年, Thousands of Years of Frost and Snow. Produced by COP in 2015, this song tells a sentimental fictional story of a ghost girl represented by Luo Tianyi, who reincarnates as a human 3,000 years later. In 2018, the original version had reached 1 million views on Bilibili, earning the prestigious title of a legendary song within the Chinese Vocaloid community. The video you're watching now is from a 2025 performance on CCTV's channel for children and teenagers. It is a massive crossover event featuring Luo Tianyi alongside the renowned Peking opera actress Wang Peiyu and the youth Chinese orchestra. Luo Tianyi begins in a light blue Hanfu, holding a Chinese oil paper umbrella. The moment Wang Peiyu begins her vocals, Luo Tianyi's outfit instantly transforms into a pink opera costume. The subtitles on the broadcast declare that this collaboration demonstrates the limitless vitality emerging from Chinese anime's innovative spirit. The fans loved it. On Bilibili, the bullet comments exploded with praise. One popular comment even jokingly called her a cyber civil servant. Acknowledging this virtual idol now appears in official state-level media events. You can't talk about Gufeng music without talking about the look. In music videos and live performances, many Gufeng singers are dressed in Hanfu, the traditional clothing of the Han ethnic group. And just like the music, Hanfu activities have spent the last 2 decades evolving from a subculture into a government-endorsed cultural phenomenon. Historically, these garments evolved over 3,000 years, from the Zhou dynasty all the way to the Ming. When the Qing government took power, they implemented the 剃发易服 policy, shaving hair and changing clothes, mandating that all citizens adopt Manchu hairstyles and clothing to solidify Qing rule over the Han majority. While some features survived through limited concessions, the Great Unification nearly buried the Han tradition of attire. And how did Hanfu come back? The spark was actually a moment of confusion. In 2001, at the APEC Shanghai Summit, leaders posed in Tang suits, which were actually modified Qing Dynasty Mandarin jackets. This sparked an online debate. Where is the Han ethnic group's traditional attire? This question triggered the Lost Hanfu movement. Initially, it was just enthusiasts on forums restoring garments based on old artifacts and books, much like Gufeng gamers making music in their own bedrooms. Media outlets outlets and citizens were often confused when they saw these restored costumes on the street. As more enthusiasts wore Hanfu at events and activities and promoted its revival through online blogs, local Hanfu societies formed to support the movement. The clothing industry began producing Hanfu brands and products, and scholars and artists began promoting Hanfu through their lectures, arts, and performances. This subculture movement ultimately gained the government's strong attention and support as an effective way to promote traditional culture. The government started hosting Hanfu festivals, fashion shows, and TV programs, collaborating with Hanfu clubs, societies, and artists. The images you see here are from the 2020 China Costume Restoration Show in Shanghai. The team behind this show started as an online interest group, but evolved into a professional organization. Over 17 years, they have restored over 700 sets of artifacts, and now serve as consultants for museums, dramas, and films. As the Hanfu activities matured, the clothing industry and the music industry began to collaborate. As Hanfu manufacturing grew, Gufeng singers began wearing increasingly elaborate, customized pieces for their stage performances. Today, Hanfu festivals regularly feature Gufeng singers. An example is the Xitang Hanfu Culture Week, initiated in 2013 by Vincent Fang. Held annually in the ancient town of Xitang, this event is jointly organized by Fang and Hanfu enthusiasts. By 2025, it had grown large enough to host the first Zhongguofeng Hanfu Music Festival, featuring veteran Gufeng singers like Shen, Li Changchao, and Audio Monster. The 2021 Sichuan TV program Blossoms Across the Land, New Year Concert of National Melodies, featured many Gufeng singers performing classic Gufeng pieces. Among them, Hita's performance of Li Yi Zhibang, the Nation of Greatness and Courtesy, was combined with a Hanfu fashion show and traditional Chinese instrumental performances, showcasing ancient Chinese aesthetics from multiple dimensions. Netizens highly praised Sichuan TV's decision to feature Hanfu and Chinese-style music at the New Year concert. However, they also criticized the lack of pre-show promotion across platforms. One of the popular comments on Bilibili read, "The country should strongly promote Hanfu nationwide, as it is the traditional attire of our great Chinese civilization, not Western suits and ties. Look at important international occasions. Leaders from other countries all wear their national costumes, whether it's Gufeng music or Hanfu attire. Their shift from niche subcultures to mainstream markets reflects contemporary Chinese people's strong desire to display identity and national confidence on the global cultural and artistic stage." On the New Year's Eve of 2012, MMQ Music held a live concert in Beijing, celebrating its 6th anniversary. The event marked the Guofeng team's first in-person meeting with their fans, who had previously only enjoyed MMQ Music works online. When tickets sold out in just 10 seconds, Gui Zhenyu, a core member of the club, realized the vast commercial potential of Gufeng music. By that time, MMQ Music members had almost no experience performing on stage. Despite some mishaps, the concert ultimately went on successfully without external professional help. In October 2013, MMQ Music held Jinling Qinhuai Night live concert at the Nanjing People's Hall. In 2015, Gui consolidated MMQ's creative resources and fan base, founding Nanjing Miman Culture Media, shortened to Miman Media, which aimed to transition Gufeng music and its fan base into a scalable commercial ecosystem. After its establishment, Miman Media expanded into the pan-entertainment field, promoting the transformation of MMQ's work from online music to offline scenarios and diverse IPs. Miman Media elevated MMQ Music's concerts from niche live house events to stadium-level venues like the Great Hall of the People and the Bird's Nest. Miman Media developed derivative products such as animations, comics, and games based on MMQ Music's works. Miman Media collaborated with platforms such as Tencent Games and NetEase Cloud Music to integrate MMQ Music's works into games and music platforms, thereby expanding their influence. Significantly, Miman Media upgraded the Gufeng music label to Guofeng culture, which later received endorsement by the state. To understand how Gufeng and even Hanfu moved from the fringe to the center, we must look at the top-down national strategy. The government has explicitly set a goal to transform China into a cultural powerhouse by 2035. This initiative began in 2011 with the call for a thriving socialist culture and was solidified in 2020 with a clear timeline to enhance the nation's soft power and global influence. By 2025, President Xi Jinping highlighted the urgent need to root culture in Chinese practice, absorb global civilizations, and build a distinct Chinese narrative system. The policy analysis article published in People's Forum emphasized adopting Chinese culture as the foundation, transforming from being the object role articulated by the West into an independent subject that tells China's story well, thereby rebuilding Chinese cultural confidence. It advocates a more scientific approach to handling the interactive relationship between Chinese and Western cultures. On the one hand, it respects and acknowledges differences between the cultures. On the other hand, it maintains cultural self-awareness in constructing the Chinese nation's cultural identity. The guiding principle is to make the past serve the present. It calls for dialectically selecting positive elements from history, and, in a phrase that can describe the Gufeng phenomenon, using ancient rules to create new forms. This is the official mandate for the creative transformation of Chinese culture. Mainstream artists have also been exploring ancient sounds in the creation of contemporary popular songs over the past few decades. Ha Hui, a Chinese classical female vocalist, is also an ambassador for promoting Chinese traditional culture. She started her music career performing folk songs and officially transitioned to the research and exploration of Chinese ritual music culture and classical music in 2007, marking the beginning of New Yayue or New Elegant music. Yayue was a form of ceremonial music and dance in ancient China. The term Yayue first appeared in Confucius' Analects, where he considered it to be good and beneficial music. 香鹤歌紫金 Harmony Hymn, the blue collar, draws on Shi Jing, an ancient Chinese poem and lyrics collection from the Zhou dynasty. Ha Hui blends ancient Chinese poetry chanting with her uniquely innovative singing style, the yin xian qiang, giving the song a classical elegance.
青青子佩悠悠我思，纵我不忘此宁不来。
On the other end of the spectrum is Liu Huan, the master of Chinese pop music. For the massive hit drama Empresses in Palace, 甄嬛传, he composed Phoenix Flying in Pairs, 凤凰于飞. Unlike the ceremonial Yayue, this track explores Yanyue, which was the banquet music of Chinese ancient court. Liu Huan also uses the traditional fish bites tail, 鱼摇尾 technique, where the last note of one phrase becomes the start of the next, creating a continuous, flowing melody. Both Harmony Hymn, the blue collar, and Phoenix Flying in Pairs employ evenly distributed musical notes throughout, adhering to the one character, one note principle, to showcase the orderly, harmonious beauty of traditional Chinese music. As communication between the Gufeng music scene and mainstream culture grows, some Gufeng music fans consider these mainstream ancient-style songs part of Gufeng music because they all share the ancient charm. The media widely labels all music that evokes ancient and elegant styles as Gufeng. However, the term Gufeng singer specifically refers to singers mainly active in the Gufeng music subculture. Gufeng music reinterprets traditional Chinese culture and tells Chinese stories from a modern perspective, incorporating new media and technology. This aligns perfectly with the national strategy of building a cultural powerhouse, which led to Gufeng's inclusion in a broader, more inclusive and mainstream concept of Guofeng music. Similarly, the mainstream has also incorporated the Hanfu subculture into a broader concept called Huafu, a collective term that covers all ethnic groups' traditional attire. Hua, is the abbreviation of 华夏, Cathay, the origin of Chinese civilization. Since 2018, China has designated the third day of the third lunar month, traditionally believed to be the birthday of the Yellow Emperor and the ancient Shangsi festival, as China Traditional Attire Day. Notably, the word Guofeng itself, if not combined with music, is now a broad cultural concept that can cover any literal and artistic forms and cultural items with traditional Chinese cultural characteristics. In 2015, the Jieshengji Guofeng Music Festival was held at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing, taking Not Tying Chronicles as its theme. China.org covered the festival, mentioning Gufeng music is evolving from a niche fascination into a broader cultural phenomenon. Offline Gufeng music concerts have already toured over 10 cities across China, and the performance of Jieshengji at the Great Hall of the People undoubtedly marks the most brilliant stage appearance of the entire Gufeng ACGN culture in the past decade. The following year, the Xinshiji Guofeng Music Festival took place at Beijing's National Stadium, also known as the Bird's Nest. It is worth noting that the host of the Xinshiji Guofeng Music Festival was Ren Luyu from CCTV. These two large-scale sold-out shows, which primarily feature Gufeng singers alongside Chinese folk singers and traditional music ensembles, marked the official entry of Gufeng music into the mainstream cultural scene and the state's endorsement of the concept of Guofeng. In efforts to build a cultural powerhouse and boost cultural confidence, state and regional television stations have launched numerous cultural programs. Guofeng music holds a vital role among them, and Gufeng singers are often recognized as Guofeng musicians in these programs. Guofeng Super Show is a Guofeng music performance program produced by the Literature and Arts Program Center of China Media Group. The program brings together nearly 100 Guofeng musicians to create over 100 Guofeng songs with theatrical themes, showcasing the beauty of Chinese operas through a blend of opera and pop music. Its sequel, Guofeng Super Show Quest for Tradition, released this year, invites Guofeng musicians to explore the source of inspiration for Guofeng music creation. It adopts a model of field research and collaborative music creation and Guofeng concerts to meticulously produce 10 episodes of Guofeng concert programs and a grand concert featuring Guofeng's golden hits. Increasingly, China's national team artists and mainstream performers have adapted or interpreted popular Guofeng songs. Released in 2018, Chiling, Artist in Red, is one of the most covered Gufeng songs, with lyrics by Qing Yan, composition by Li Jianheng, and performed by Hita. The song tells a heroic story of an opera artist during the war. It is notable that actors or entertainers held a very low social status in ancient China. The song incorporates elements from the Kunqu opera, The Peach Blossom Fan. National Class A performers like Li Yugang and Tan Jing, as well as popular singers like Zhang Hanyun and Huang Ling, have all covered the song. Han Jing's version is used as the theme song for the Justice Online mobile game's promotional storyline. Her cover video gained more than 10 million views on Weibo and Bilibili in less than 48 hours of its release, prompting netizens to marvel the Great Demon King airdrops on the small broken station, which is the nickname of Bilibili. Let's feel the fear of being dominated by traffic together. It is worth noting that incorporating operatic singing into pop music is not exclusive to Gufeng music, although it shapes many audiences' impressions of Gufeng songs. Also known as xi qu in Chinese, Chinese operas are a sing-song storytelling art form that holds a distinctive position within Chinese intangible cultural heritage. Although Peking opera is well recognized in the West, China has more than 300 traditional operas. In the mid-20th century, Chinese composers began exploring elements of Chinese operas in their compositions. In the 80s, many popular Beijing-style songs emerged, such as Qianmen nostalgia for Big Bowl Tea, which incorporated the musical elements of Beijing Qin Shu and Beijing Danxian Cha Qu.
我爷爷小的时候常在这里玩耍，高高的前门仿佛挨着我的家。
An early effort to combine Peking opera style singing with rock and pop music took place in 1992 when songwriter and singer Chen Sheng released the song One Night in Beijing.
One night in Beijing， 我留下许多记忆，不敢在午夜问路，怕走到了百花深处。
说百花的深处，住着老情人，风着酒花线，面容安详的老人，依旧斟酌那出征的归人。
The integration of Chinese traditional operas can also be seen in Zhongguofeng songs, such as Su San Shuo by David Tao, Beside the Plum Blossoms by Li Hongwang.
Bring it back, y'all. Check it out, man. Bring it back, y'all. Come back, y'all. 在那边儿。
Li Yugang, who gained nationwide fame after participating in the talent show Avenue of Stars in 2007, is well known for his vocal versatility, performing both male and female parts and shifting between pop, folk, and opera vocal styles. Li Yugang's hit song The New Drunken Concubine blends Chinese folk and operatic singing styles with lyrics that draw on ancient Chinese poetry and legendary stories.
爱恨就在一瞬间，举杯对月心似天。爱恨两茫茫，问君何时圆。
However, the mass production of Gufeng music has resulted in many formulaic songs featuring operatic choruses since the late 2010s. These have become common hooks in Gufeng songs, and the emerging social media platforms helped spread them widely. The cover and remixed versions of these operatic hooks went viral on short video platforms like Douyin, Chinese TikTok, and many people use the clips as background music for their own videos. The opera hybrid songs now has an official name adopted by mainstream media called 戏歌 to recognize their difference from and connection to 戏曲. Hit Gufeng songs like 赤灵 Artist in Red, 牵丝戏 Silken Strands of Fate, and 探窗 Window of Longing all fall into the type of 戏歌. The popularity of 戏歌 led to an increase in cross-genre collaborations among Guofeng musicians, including Gufeng singers, opera performers, and Chinese instrumental performers. A Hubei TV show called 高山流水觅知音 Seeking Souls in High Peaks and Whispering Streams aired in 2022 and featured many 戏歌 collaborative performances. Many young opera performers became popular for their cover versions of 戏歌. One of the 戏歌 medley videos by 416 Collective, a group of college students majoring in Peking opera, who lived in room number 416 at Shanghai Theatre Academy, has gained more than 17 million views on Bilibili. Here's a clip of a collaborative performance of Tan Chuang, Window of Longing by Fang Jinlong, a master of Chinese traditional instruments, and 416 Collective. While the original version by Gufeng singer adopted the female role vocal style of Peking opera, the 416's professional use of opera singing further highlights the unique charm of different schools and roles in Peking opera. Cheng Xiaochen's Hua Dan singing style features a more playful and light enunciation, resulting in a fresher and more delicate timbre compared to Yang Xi's Cheng Pai Qing Yi singing. Yang Xi's approach leans slightly back vocal placement and incorporates chest resonance, creating a dark, hushed, and melodious tone. Dian Jingting's Lao Dan singing style predominantly employs chest and oropharyngeal resonance, producing a rich tone that is usually used to depict an elderly female role in Peking opera. Although some theater enthusiasts may dismiss xige as mere imitations that don't even meet the basic standards of traditional Chinese operas, mainstream media still recognize it as a fashionable expression of classical Chinese operas, a bridge connecting contemporary generations with traditional art and culture, and it helps pass down traditional operas. Official media outlets now define xige as modern popular songs that incorporate traditional Chinese operatic singing styles, melodies, and other elements exuding operatic charm. People's Daily and Guangming Online both noted that xige retains the distinctive features of traditional Chinese operas, yet with shorter, less technically demanding clips that are easy to understand, making them more accessible and widely sung among the general public. Music professor Zhang Yi's 2023 report in People's Daily emphasizes young people's significant involvement in the creation and performance of xige, highlighting the production and performance of Gufeng music. It pointed out how the innovative xige plus formats weave into contemporary daily life by integrating props and costumes and combining with anime, games, live streaming, and short videos. Mainstream media's coverage and evaluation of Gufeng music have evolved from skeptical scrutiny to observational discussion, then to recognition and encouragement, and finally to high praise with a cultural mission bestowed. The key drivers behind this shift include continuous improvement in the quality and maturity of Gufeng works, successful breaking out of niche circles and demonstrating substantial commercial value and social influence, alignment with the national agenda promoting cultural confidence, carrying forward excellent traditional Chinese culture, and the rise of China's chic trend meets the younger generation's needs for cultural identity and expression from their own heritage. Today, mainstream media regards Gufeng music as an important force that bridges tradition and modernity, inspires cultural confidence, and promotes the innovative development of Chinese culture. They hold an optimistic outlook for its future, expecting it to achieve greater artistic depth and cultural significance. In Zhao Pu's article entitled Gufeng Songs Have Become a New Trend in Pop Music, published in Guangming Daily in 2024, he recognized that Gufeng songs are an innovative attempt to showcase the charm of excellent traditional culture and promotes its inheritance and modern development through the popular music form. But he also criticized some songwriters and singers mimic the operatic vocal style without truly understanding the art of opera. He also expressed his expectations for the future development of Gufeng music, delving deeply into traditional culture and continuously infusing it with new vitality. From fan works inspired by Xianxia games to state-endorsed events and industry expansion, Gufeng music has transformed from a niche subculture into a mainstream cultural force. Its reinterpretation, transmission, and innovation of ancient Chinese arts, literature, and traditions align with the government's vision of building a cultural powerhouse by 2035. Rather than restoring ancient works, Gufeng emphasizes creating contemporary pieces infused with classical charm. As a narrative-driven genre, it constructs a transmedia story world that spans sound, visuals, and interactive media. Together with Hanfu and historical fantasy creations, it collectively constructs a reimagined ancient China. Initially a non-profit, semi-original genre, Gufeng's growth has been shadowed by persistent copyright challenges, but original music clubs such as MMQ Music have steered the movement toward maturity, laying the foundation for a comprehensive Gufeng industry, anchored in music, but enriched by collaborations across art forms and media. Commercialization and the rise of short video platforms have fueled a surge in Gufeng songs, broadening exposure and reach. At the same time, this boom has produced a flood of formulaic, hastily made 戏歌 on social media, which has formed stereotypes among outsiders towards Gufeng music. Now categorized under the broader Guofeng music, Gufeng artists face heightened expectations and responsibilities from official media. Still, fans continue to identify with its subcultural roots, being part of the art 次元 world. While Gufeng music generally refers to works that evoke an ancient Chinese aesthetic to the general audience, it also maintains a dedicated fan community, one that continues to create, share, and circulate lyric works.